Said.
June 23rd, 1995. I am Mel Kartzmer interviewing Brenda Senders in Hallandale, Florida. The interview will be in English, tape 1.
Okay, cut. Speed.
Tell us your name, please.
I'm Brenda Senders.
And where were you born?
I was born in Poland was at that time.
What was
the Ukraine.
What was the name of the town?
The name of the town was Sarny.
Spell that.
Sarny, S-A-R-N-Y.
And your date of birth?
And it was August 20th, 1925.
And the name that your parents gave you at birth?
As I remember, Brindle. At birth, my first name was Brindle. Bronia, they called me in Polish.
And your last name?
Was Shear, S-Z-Y-R.
Okay. Your father's first name?
My father's first name was Samuel.
And approximately when was he born?
In the beginning of 1900 or 1898. I'm not sure of that.
Was he also born in Sarny?
He was born not far from Sarny. As I remember my recollection, what I was told, Kamine they called it. It's a small, as far as I know it. Kamine, it was a village or it was a small little town, I don't know. And he came from a very fine family, as I understood at that time.
Your mother's first name?
My mother's first name was Leah.
And she was born approximately when?
Approximately, maybe a year younger than my father. I don't know, maybe the same, I would call it the same. Let's say 1900.
And where was she born?
She was born near Sarny, in a small, it's like a village, Karpiluvka. I think that's what the name, yeah, Karpiluvka.
What was your mother's maiden name?
Maiden's family name was Burko.
And you had brothers and sisters?
I had 2 sisters and a brother.
Your sisters' names?
My sister's name was Sima. The other one was Esther. And my brother's name was Solomon, Sholemke they called him.
What year were your sisters and your brother born?
As far as Sima is in 1933, I think September. My little brother is approximately 1936, sister 1938.
And did your sisters and your brother survive the war?
One sister, Sima, who was from 1933, she survived the war with me.
Did your parents survive the war?
No, they were killed together with my little brother, my little sister.
And what year did they die?
They died in 1942, approximately in August.
Did anyone else?
They murdered them actually, they didn't die.
Did anyone else live in your home before the war? Grandparents or boarders?
My grandfather.
His
My
name?
grandfather was Ziskin Shear. He was quite a modern, in his time was a very modern man. He used to travel a lot, and he was, at one point he used to tell me he was a well-to-do man. And then when the Bolshevik came and the communists, they took away from him. And he used to be a big traveler. He used to travel to Austria, he told me, and to Germany, and he met the Kaiser. He used to tell me, I was fascinated with his little stories as a kid. Fascinated.
Mm-hmm. Your grandmother was not living at the time?
No.
And at the time of the war, your grandfather was approximately how old?
I don't know. I can show you. I really don't know.
Approximately.
I would call it in the 60s.
Okay. And did he also die at the same time as your parents?
He died the same day, yes.
What was your father's business?
My father was seasonal. He was a forester, like buying of quarters of woods and then buying them off from it was owned by the government, from the Leshnichi, the foresters, buying them off and then cut them down. And then in the winter, they used to come with the slates, I remember. Peasants, like 20, 50, 60, I don't know, a whole bunch, it's like a whole one after the other, like a train of them. Used to come, they used to load those trees, and they used to, by train, bring them to Sarny, and from Sarny they used to load them on transport, and they used to take them to Gdynia, to Gdańsk, I don't know. I don't know, but this is as far as I can understand. Because I was a schoolgirl, I was not interested in all those things.
Do you remember your address before the war?
It was, in the beginning it was Sarny. I remember we lived on Ulica Handlowa, Ulica Wspólna, I'm sorry. Ulica Wspólna, they call it. That means the street, Ulica is in Polish, Ulica is street, Wspólna. That's the way they call the street. I don't know the address. I don't remember the number.
Did you live in a house or an apartment?
It was a little small house. It was an apartment, I don't know, little homes, you know, it's a small town. So there were homes in
And did you
we
live
consisted of 3 rooms, something. We shared the kitchen, something.
Did you live right in the town of Sarny? Or
we lived in the town of Sarny till my father lost, it was a seasonal, lost his job, and the time was very rough, and in the 30s, I don't remember, 35, we moved into Rudnia. Where
was
It's
Rudnia?
a village, but 16 kilometers from Sarny. Then there, we opened a little, like a grocery store. And my mother used to bake breads and this, and used to sell it, and that's how we made a living. And my father had, again, if he had a job, he used to accept, because it was in his field, and he was doing the buying and again doing the same, and he knew the peasants, and they loved it, my father. They liked him. When I know as a fact, when I escaped in the tough times, and I told him the time, Shmulikova dochka, it means Samuel's daughter, they used to cry over me and give me food, and he was helping people.
Okay, let's go back a little bit now. Just before the war, you were in school, you were a student.
Yes, I was a student.
What school did you attend?
I went to a Tarbut Gymnasium, they call it. It's a Hebrew, and it was acknowledged by the government, of course, and we were checked, you know, like inspectors used to come and check out if we have the curriculum and everything is there. And it was a Hebrew gymnasium.
Were your parents very Orthodox?
Predominantly Hebrew was. If they were Orthodox, my mother was more so than my father. My father was a very modern and very updated, you know. He was.
Did you attend shul
was
regularly?
Very modern. What?
Did you attend shul regularly?
Not regularly, but we used to go to shul, especially on the holidays.
And the shul was in Sarny?
In Sarny, yes. I remember my father, and I remember Simchas Torah, you know, especially when the kids used to come. I remember going with my father, and they call it this synagogue Kupiecheskaya Shul. You know, this is a commerce. All people who were in commerce or something, they belonged under or something, I don't know. But this was the shul, and I remember liked very much to go with my father whenever.
Would you remember the name of the rabbi?
The name of the rabbi, no. But the name of the second shul, I remember, Rabbi Karlinsky, I think. Kunda, I'm sorry, Rabbi Kunda.
Did you belong to any organizations?
No, I went to school, and a few times I was dragged to go with my friends, to come with them, and this was like a Gordonia or something. We used to dance in this, and Horace, and it was appealing for a certain time, and then I did not proceed. I was busy with my school, I was busy with all those things, with whatever it was going on, so I did not. I know for my family, a lot went as pioneers, went to Palestine at that time. Some my aunt and some of my uncles.
Now, before the Germans came into Poland,
Yes.
how aware was your family of what was happening to the Jews in Germany?
We are talking about the 30s. You understand? We heard bad news, and we heard, because it started already, it was imported things from the Germans. Then all of a sudden we had a Madame Priester, I remember. Madame Priester, who was the one who decided. She started brewing trouble in Poland. She was like an import from the Germans. And all of a sudden they decided, because by the Jewish law you have to slaughter a certain way, a chicken and a cow and whatever. She decided it's too painful, or it's too cruel, whatever, they have to kill her by a bullet, and this is against the Jewish against the Jewish laws and against the Jewish rituals or whatever. And I remember the trouble started already brewing, and this was now after we understand this was imported from Germany.
How large a city was Sarny?
Sarny was 20,000 population.
How many Jews?
Jews was 6,000. But 6,000 to be, I think this is the correct.
Did you feel anti-Semitism in Sarny?
Somewhat, you know, we lived with our neighbors, some, you know, bad and good, some weren't this, you know, they hated, they were hating people, so we had, you know, ups and downs with them. But we didn't feel so badly. There were excesses, there were, you know, the students, the Jewish who went to a Polish school, they had a worse feeling than I, because I went to a Hebrew, but mostly predominantly Jewish kids went on there.
Did you have a radio in your home?
To the end, yes.
Were you getting news? Were you getting news of what was happening in Germany?
During the Soviets, we had a radio, and then, of course, in 1939, war started with us. War started with us in 1939. And then, of course, Poland was split in two. And remember the pact between the Germans and the...
There was a non-aggression pact.
The non-aggression pact was
Russia.
Signed between the Germans and the Russians.
Right.
And by this doing, they split Poland.
And which
and
section?
I fell into the jurisdiction of the Soviets. I went to school. I proceeded still as normal. And we start hearing right away some bad news, but it did not affect us. A lot of people started running from the other side of the German side, wind up bieżenicy, we call them. This is refugees, you know, to translate this. And they start telling us horrifying story, but it did not affect us yet.
So your family felt safe?
Felt safe. I went to school, and we felt all right. My father, of course, could not. That changed completely different. Situation was already. But he was working still in his same field. He was a director. They gave him a title on there with a lot of people under his supervision, whatever. And then, of course.
How do you remember the war starting between Germany and Russia?
Oh, yeah, I remember distinctly and very well. It was the day, it was a warm day, a hot day, I remember. And we did not till the afternoon that the war started. Actually, they attacked the Soviets with no warning whatsoever. They attacked. And within a week, we were overrun by the Germans. And I remember we were very fearful because some penetrated to us news that, and I remember my parents, let's run together with the Soviets, let's retreat with them. And I remember my father said, whatever will be with Kol Yisrael will be with Rabbi Yisrael. That means whatever will be with all the Jews will be with me. And he was an educated man. He spoke, you know, he spoke German fluently. He was an interpreter during the First World War, as I understand.
He was in the army, the Polish army?
It was the Russian, I don't know. In the Russian, I would say. The Polish and the Russian, I don't know.
Do you remember your parents talking with their friends about those who were leaving the town to go east to Russia?
It was no time for it. It was such a fast doing, it was so fast done. It was, you had to decide within a day or two.
How do you remember the Germans coming into your town?
How do I remember? We were in the village. And some of the peasants gave us hopes. Don't worry, you know, stay, we will protect you, but this was just words. And then, did you ask me?
How do you remember the Germans coming into your town, into Sarny?
To Sarny we heard it, because we were already still in Rudny, in the village. But we knew they didn't come exactly to Rudny. They didn't, it was not a way for them to go through, because it was a way in the woods, in a way it's a village. But we heard some bad news. Some of them, you know, some of the girls, the first line of the soldiers came in and they attacked some Jewish girls. And they, what do we call, they raped them.
They raped them?
Yes. And with no time, a decree came out. They let us stay for a little while. That's all the Jews must congregate, must come into Sarny, from the villages, from all the small towns, from the villages in particular.
How did
my grandparents.
How did they notify the villagers that they have to come in?
Through the Jewish Kehila, through the Jewish council. To the Jewish council.
So somebody came to your home?
Yeah, somebody came and they were in communication with us.
Okay, now this was in 1942. It was in the summer of 42.
1941.
41?
When the war started. 1941.
What happened next with your family?
What happened, we moved in the ghetto with we moved in the ghetto with some of our distant family. Also Burko was their name. And we lived in 3 small rooms. We were about 14 people living down there, with a little kitchen that we used to share.
Was there a wall around the ghetto? Was there a wall around the ghetto?
Not, we were, not in our case. It was fenced in by a fence. A wooden fence. It was not barbed wire, but it was a wooden fence. But nobody was allowed, of course, to go across the fence except through the gate. If somebody would jump through the gate, they would be killed, because there were stationed some policemen, the Ukrainians and some Germans, but mostly Ukrainians, the lackeys, I call them.
And were the people given jobs to do, work to do?
Yes, every family had to come to the municipality, to the self-governed, to the kehila, they call it, you know, to the council. They have to produce, every family has to produce two or one person almost twice a week or 3 times a week. And they used to send them to any manual, to any stupid work, whatever had to be done.
How long did the ghetto last?
The ghetto lasted from 1941 to 1942.
And what happened then?
Our ghetto was at one point surrounded. We heard some news penetrated in little cutouts from the newspapers, but for the populace, not for the ghetto people, for the population outside. They are transferring Jews from this and this town, and then we find out if was already transferring Jews, it's a bad news. They are killing them, they are doing something with them, and we could not figure out. But we knew that something horrible things are happening.
What happened next?
Next, our ghetto was surrounded one night, and right away a decree, right in the thing, a big placard came. was written right in the front of the municipality. That's all the populace of the ghetto must come to the gate, to the square down there where the gate was, the next day. Our ghetto was surrounded with Ukrainians, the Ukrainians who were helping the Germans, they were Nazis just as much, and Germans. And at that day, people we saw it's a panic right away. Women with children are running from street to streets, and they used to just spiteful. They used to throw in, with real live ammunition, they used to throw into the crowd, and some of them were killed right there and then. And my mother, right away, we were a little bit away from the main crowd. My mother insisted I should go into hiding. I didn't want to, but she absolutely insisted. So I decided to go into hiding. She said, maybe one of us will survive or something, whatever, go into hiding. And the hiding place was at my uncle's house. It was a barn for cows. It was a double wall erected, and there a little opening. You open up, you went in down there, and you closed, you masqueraded, and then if a soldier or somebody would walk in, he wouldn't see nothing, because was a double wall, was in between in the double wall. When I walked in, there was about 8 or 9 people were sitting down there.
Was this barn inside the ghetto?
It was inside the ghetto, yeah.
Okay.
It belonged to my uncle's mother-in-law.
Okay. I think you indicated that the Germans were building a camp on the outskirts of town. Did you not?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
We were in fear every day. And one day, we heard that they took some people from our ghetto to build some kind of camp, a camp in the outskirts of our town. It was like in a little valley. It was surrounded by little hills. We didn't have mountains, hills. And it was in a little valley, and they built under a camp. Right away, we were suspicious, the people who were building, asking the Germans who were supervising them, what is it for? They said, we have to bring prisoners of war from the front in there. And that's where we are going to keep them. And we didn't have no choice to believe them. And they deceived us. This camp was erected for the people of our town, plus the people from all the small towns. And I'm speaking 6,000 of Jewish inhabitants of ours, plus between 16 but 17,000 people. I can be shy a few hundred. They brought them in the cattle trains, whatever we saw on television at night from the small towns. It was Klosov, Dombrovica, Berezhnitz. From all the small town, they brought them into Sarny. And graves was already prepared. They took him in groups. They took each town separately across the hill. And Germans, when we walked in that day, Germans were sitting right on the hill. That's the camp. This is the answer to the camp where the people were building.
When did they move everybody from Sarny into this camp?
It was in 1942, after the ghetto was, of course, after the ghetto was surrounded, and yes, after the ghetto was surrounded, the next day, we sent out a man. One of our people, we were but what did I say? But how many people that are there in this hiding? So we sent out a man to find out what's going on. When he came back, Mr. Luria, very respected, nice gentleman. He was a businessman before the war, and quite a well-to-do man. And he came running back, and he said, "They are killing. We must come to the square. If we are not." Anybody who they'll find hiding, they will kill them on the spot. We didn't, at that time, we didn't know that the verdict was the same for this one. I decided to meet up with my family, with my family. And I left them and I went with my family.
So you went into the camp with your family. Describe how you were living in the camp.
It was tough. We were, like I described you, there were 3 little rooms, 14 people, and the fear and the thing was horrible. At night, I remember we were not far from the gate of the ghetto, and at night the people, the Christian people of not Jewish persuasion, had homes in the ghetto, so they left to live down there. They didn't have to move out, and so at night the people who used we had a curfew 8 o'clock. They didn't have no curfew, so at night we used to hear some trucks would come into the ghetto. So we didn't know if the truck was coming in to stop at the house to drag out people to be killed or whatever it is. But the truck belonged to a Christian family who was coming at night around 10, 11 o'clock from his work and going back home. And in this fear, that's where we lived.
But when your family moved into the camp, how were you housed? Were the barracks?
And what do you mean into the camp? The camp was we were taking out from the ghetto. You know, we had to come to the square of the ghetto, all the people from Sarna ghetto had to come. And then there was a guy, a German, I will never forget his face. He was standing with a little table in front of him, and he was alphabetically calling out names, putting them into groups of 30, 40, putting them behind the gate, and right away we surrounded by Germans and Ukrainians, and they take him away right away someplace. My family name was Shear. So I was almost to the end to leave the ghetto.
So they were not taking you to a place to live, they were executing these people.
That's exactly. They took us down there to be executed.
I understand.
Okay.
Just say her name.
Brenda Senders, tape 2.
That's it. Good. Thank
So,
Speed.
let's continue with the story, Brenda.
Yes.
You now realize that something is wrong with the people that they're taking out of your ghetto. What was it that you decided to do?
When came our turn, I was almost to the end of the group because my name was Shear, all my family names, so my family and everybody was almost to the end. This German was standing down there and with a big list of the people who were living in the ghetto. And he was marking off anybody who was not present, marking it off. It did not make sense at that time to us. And then, like, it would be somebody would go on an outing, just for some kind of, you know, he was marking it off. Then we find out why they did it. Because they wanted to know how many people remain and how many they have to still look for to be killed. And then I remember right behind the gate, there was this, we were surrounded with a Nazi was going, in this guy who was standing down there and marking off the name, his face was red, I remember, and I think he stunk with alcohol. I bet he couldn't stomach maybe this whole thing. Then they took us in behind the gate. We were surrounded by the Ukrainian in this German, and I remember he was wearing a black armband with a white skeleton. And one woman came up to him and she said, "Where are you taking us?" He said, "We are taking you to a working camp." And that's where they took us in the outskirts of our town, where this camp was erected. And there where I first saw that camp. There were 3 big barracks, wooden barracks, a toilet for men open on one side, a toilet for women, double barbed wire. People already were, when they brought us in, the people from the small town, they brought them in a night before, a day before, and they were already down there. And we saw already dead bodies by the barbed wire, double barbed wire, body barbed wire, and the blood was already dry. So they pushed us in that enclosure, The Germans with the machine guns was sitting on the hill, facing us. Between this double barbed wire was a German, a Ukrainian with guns. They got all the Jews from Sarny and from the surrounding
All right. What happened?
towns.
What happened next to your family?
Then I start running around and I see my relatives. I see my relatives from my small towns. I ran up to a group of people, my mother with me, and their name was Pomerans. They have relatives and their grandchildren right in Washington. I came up to them and my great uncle, the saint of a man, was sitting down there on the ground and praying to God. And I guess God was not with him and against him. And the whole family surrounded him. And my mother with me standing down there, and they called out because they were very well prepared and very, very organized, the Nazis. But this was concerned. Right up there, they called out that Berezhnitz, because alphabetically B, must come to the gate. They all stood up. My mother, there was a daughter, a son, I remember, the whole family. I asked him, my mother and me, I asked him, Leah was the daughter's name. Leah, what is this? She said, this is my wedding gown, this is my fiancé. I said, where are you going? She said, I don't know. They picked themselves up and they went, and that's the last I see of them. I have lost my father down there. I don't know, my father had a terrible temper, he spoke a perfect German. Maybe he went right away to the gate and he started maybe a fight or asking some questions. He was killed, but maybe they're on the spot because I haven't seen them. Then another family I went to, from a smaller another town. I used to go on vacation down there, come to that. Dombrovica, right away they got up. There was the mother, the daughter, and always she stands out. She was a beautiful girl, Sarah was her name. My age, maybe a year younger. So. Beautiful blue eyes, dark hair. She looked like Elizabeth Taylor. I always compare her. I said, where is your father? Because I knew I used to come. She said, my father escaped. She said, my father escaped at night. We don't know if he's alive or dead. I met him in the woods afterwards, and he died fighting the Germans. This was a consolation. Sarah got up with her mother, with the townspeople, and I said, Sarah, where are you going? She said, I don't know and I don't care. I wanted to be all of it. Then penetrated right there and then through the camp that we are going to cut the barbed wire. That's it, that's the end. And there was this guy, Migdal, and I'll call him a hero. There were two guys. One is a shorter, I don't remember, I need the family name. It was Migdal, this guy, this tall and handsome and blonde guy. And he looked more Aryan than Hitler could any imagine. His only crime was he was a Polish national of Jewish faith. And he was trapped down there. He was already escaped once from the claws of the Germans. I ran up to my mother, and there was in the sea of this hate, you have to understand. There was this German, my father's age, maybe a little bit older, was standing with his gun. And this German was not ISS. He was put down there with a gun, and he asked him to watch those criminals. And it's down on him, he had some humanity in him. And my friend, I saw her for the first time in my life, went up to him to talk to him. He had the right to kill her right then. I behind her, and he looked at her, and I'm behind her, and he said, oh my God, they totschlagen sie, they kill you all. Laufen Sie from here, run from her, from here, you dummy Jews. But we knew at that time, that's it, it's the end. And there are other things. There is the doctor. I was sitting down there. My dentist. Oh, she once escaped from the Germans, wound up in Sarny, and remained. And she was thrown in by the Germans after we were brought in, and then there. Her little boy of 6 or 7 was taken from her hand and on a telephone pole was killed. And she was throwing in her husband and the boy. She was throwing in the camp, and I remember she was sitting down there, and she had some needles to die. She had 7, 8, or 9, I don't know. She had a certain amount. She left one for herself, and she said anybody who wants to stand in line, people were standing in line to die instead of being killed by the Germans. I went up to my mother, and actually next to this German, the barbed wire was cut. This good, this nice. The Ukrainian lackey, and they were nasty, had to be bribed. And I remember we put in some gold. Anybody who had some trinkets, put it in. I'm sorry. I'm a tough lady, don't worry. And they put in a handkerchief. And they had to bring to him, and they told him, I remember my friend's father took off a boot, and he said, bring us some water, so you'll get the trinkets for the gold. But actually, we wanted to play for time. We wanted water because it was a hot day, but anyway, we wanted to play for time. I ran up to my mother, and I said, Mama, I'm going to run. She looked at the hill, she looked at me, she said, I said, where is the decency of the world? And she said, if you remain alive, you should never forget. That's what I'm here. And then and there, it's maybe my pledge, or maybe my promise, or maybe my hate. I said, if I'll survive, I'll fight. Okay, I'm sorry. And if I'll have to die, I'll die with a gun in my hands. And I did it all.
You went through the barbed wire then?
The barbed wire was cut.
Yes, but you went through the wire. Who was with you?
I went through the wire, a whole bunch of people, a hordes of people, one on top of the other. Some were wounded already, some were not. Our only luck was because their own people were standing in the double barbed wire, and they could not kill us all at once. And we started running, so the confusion became very great. We mixed it in with the Germans and with the Ukrainians. So that was our luck. My mother, seeing me behind the barbed wire, threw over my sister, and she followed me.
Anybody else from your family?
Survived?
No.
Oh, at that moment, no.
Escaped at that moment?
That moment, no. My sister was running behind me, and I remember I was so excited in my head that she was all bloody from some other people, must be from wounded people, and she wore just a little shirt, I remember. I threw the shirt and I threw it out. I took the shirt off. They recognized her in my heat of my thinking, in the confusion of thinking. They recognized her, she's Jewish, whatever the mark was. And I threw it in one of the yards to the Polish people. And it was misery. It was inferno. It was Dante's Inferno.
Where did you run to?
My first instinct was to run to, we had friends who were of Christian persuasion. They were good friends of ours, I told you. And my mother did a lot of things. If not for my mother and a group of people, they would have been in Siberia, those people. And they considered us like family, like Dora, like my mother would be to them. So the first instinct, we had some stuff with them. We were hiding during the war. When the Germans came in, we went in the ghetto in case we needed something to exchange for bread or for food. So the it was not far from that place where they were killing off all the people to their house. I used to sneak out from the ghetto sometimes during the day or at night, taking off my junk, my yellow patch, taking off and just going through the gate and going actually on the pretend being non-Jewish persuasion and bring some food back to the ghetto. So the first thing I think into run down there. When I run down there with my sister, Sima was there, I ran into the house, I asked her for water, she gave us some water, I said, hide us, she could not. She said, I'm afraid, I couldn't understand. It was on the, you understand, if she would hide us, she would be killed together with us. It was her life and our life. And then they were sitting down there was a little like a yard fence thing. And I opened for some reason, and there a husband with some more poles are standing like nothing would happen, they are telling jokes. And this stands in my head forever. Telling jokes and laughing on a high voice when they saw us. We must have looked like beasts, like you know, like animals from escapees. I was barefooted, all from the barbed wire scratched up. My sister half naked, and they looked at us and they stopped laughing right there and then. It hit them straight there. They galvanized. They looked at us. We looked at them. We didn't say, exchange not a word. They saw it. But this I want you to say. You see, they knew it. They're friends, and nobody raised a voice. That's the horrible and the atrocious things that happened.
Where'd you go next?
I wanted to go into the village where my grandparents. We lived in another village. My grandparents lived in Karpilovka, we call it. And I wanted them there. I knew it's away from the town, then there is a chance I can hide. By running from them there, I split with my sister. My sister, somehow, she strolled away from me, and I lost her. I could not wait for any moments. I said, she'll come later. I could not wait for any moments to lose. I went away. And I came to a guy, to a village man, and a friend of my grandparents, because I knew he was a very good guy, and I guessed it right. When I walked in, and there my sister was down there. It's like fiction. And my uncle was down there. My uncle escaped also the same time as I did. From there, he gave us food. He took us to a barn. We were down there 4 days, 5 days, I don't remember. And then my uncle decided, you are women. He gave us peasant clothes. I spoke the language well. And I could mix in between the peasants. If they didn't know, somehow they would smell out, they would know. I would tell them I'm from another village, but they would know, they would know my parents or something. But anyway, they gave us some peasant clothes, and I remember the first time I started learning how to the pastoli, they call it. This is like during the Roman time, you know, the thing, but you make it from leek in our part of the town, in our part of the country. From leek, and then you make it, and it looks like sandals. And then with ropes, you rub it in, and then that's the way you wear it. And that's the way I used to look like a peasant, no difference. From there, we went into a house who was standing at a hutor, they call it. It's a house by itself. It's like a farm. We call it here a farm. It's like a house in the field, surrounded by their fields, and then they used to work on the fields, and they lived down there. I went to their house, and at night I knocked on the door, and the dogs are barking the hell out. And I knocked on the door. I told them who I was. They got scared of people. You know, it's like a scare. I was, you know. And I told him who I was, and he said, okay, we'll put you into beans. I remember she took us in the field, and she hid us for a day or two. And then we decided with my sister that we'll go to Karasin. Karasin was away from the town, deep in the woods, right already at more White Russia. It's deep into the woods. And then there we have a more chance. We heard in the ghetto there are partisans, there are rumors, all kind of rumors were going around. And there where we decided, I said to my sister, we are going down there. And one night, we went at night, and everything at night had to be done. And I remember at night we were going by a little stream, by a little river. And at night, I heard on the other side of the stream, people are washing their hands, and I became so excited, so happy. I thought this must be people like out, and I wanted to speak out. But then, intuitively sometimes, I said to my sister, quiet, let's hear what's going on. They were thieves going out at night, and going out to my village where my family lived, coming out with some honey, some things, some honey and some other goodies, who knows. And one to the other one said in Ukrainian, let's get up, let's go from here, because it's daybreak is coming. And then I find out that they were actually thieves. But the ironic things, the thieves and the things sometimes used to help those unfortunate people, us.
What
From
happened
there,
next? What happened next?
It took us a whole day. We went through the woods. The woods. During the day we used to hide, and at night we used to walk on the
road.
On the road, yes, exactly. And till we came to Karasin. We came to Karasin. We find out that Shimon is down there. Is a lot of Jews escaped, and I start begging, take us into the group of Shimon. They didn't want us.
Who was Shimon?
Shimon was a friend of our family, and he also escaped from the graves. He escaped when they were killing off all his family. He escaped from there, and he ran into Karasin. That was his hometown where he lived.
What was Shimon's last name?
Paikov.
Okay, go ahead.
Paikov, this is, I remember, he was a saint of a man. So I insisted, and I said, I must see Shimon Paikov. He was he was a friend of our family. I said, if Shimon will tell me to go, I'll go. But I was insisting. And Shimon used to go around between the village people, bring us some news, bring us what's going on the front and whatever that's going on. He acquired already a gun. He, in Olshansky, was Olshansky with him. Olshansky escaped too. He was also from that village, from Karasin, but they took him away to a ghetto, to some close or someplace. Anyway, he wound up also escaping the same day, like we did.
Shimon was a leader of a partisan?
Of the group, yes.
How large?
And it was the small group of Jews who were down there, and he was like supervising. He was the leader of us. And I said, no, I'll wait for Shimon Paikov. And Shimon Paikov came at night. I came up to him and I said, I'm the daughter of so-and-so. Tears stood up in his eyes, and he said, they are like my kids and they will stay with us. And when he said it was the law, because he was the leader of the group, I stayed with them. And the people from the village had great respect for him, and they knew that if they will do something bad, they will be paid back. And the story about this, and all of a sudden, while we were down there, a teacher appeared into this remote village, in the woods, a remote village. The village consisted, I don't know, a few hundred maybe residents, maybe not even that many, a small. All of a sudden appeared a teacher that supposedly the Germans are sending him down there to organize a school. All of a sudden they were preoccupied to give schooling and to educate people, when the killing and the murdering was going on in the thousands and in the thousands. We knew right away that we must watch this foreigner, this stranger. Who is he and what? We were right away suspicious who he was. We find out exactly where he was asleep, in what house he was living. And then we saw him going to Sarny, to the town, in the middle of the week, coming back. It was unheard. You know, you don't go around at that time when the war was raging and the war was going. We knew right away. He wants the tip of the Germans, and to find out they are Jews, they are partisans, whatever that. It was a danger, not just to us, but for the people of the small town, of the small village, Shimon Paikov decided that he must be eliminated. We got rid of him. So he could walk no more and could not do any harm to us. From that point, I wanted to join a big group. This was not, I wanted to fight. We heard partisans are getting organized. And you'll ask me who were the partisans, what kind of specimen, who are the people? They were escapees from the ghettos. They were prisoners of war. And some people who couldn't stomach the Nazis were against the Nazis. They organized, and the escapees, the POWs, escaped from hell, and they were murdering just like the Jews. They were murdering them just like they were murdering the Jews. In his camp, he tells you exactly what he's going to do. But people didn't pay attention. He did it all right. And there, I heard it's a big group are coming through the woods. In a dvizhnoi, we call it, a dvizhnoi atrad. A dvizhnoi, it's a movable. They were местные, this is everything in Russian, I'm telling you. Местные, it means local. They were sitting down there in the woods in one place and then go out on assignments, disrupt the trains and do hell, whatever they could. And we were, this group, what I'm talking, what I joined, it was unmovable. When I walked up with my friends down there, I saw the people, I saw, you know, the people on, the partisans on horses, with guns, machine guns, with grenades. Even we had anti-tank, the PTR we called it, PTR. I liked it. And right away I remember strolling to me was a command officer. He had an officer's uniform, as I remember. He strolled up to me and I said, "Officer, I wanted to go to fight." He said, "Would you fight?" I said, "Oh yes." He said, "I'm not in authority to tell you yes or no." He went to his general, because he was with the general, and he said, "If you wanted to fight, now or never."
Do you remember
now.
Do you remember the name of the general?
Naumov, General Naumov.
Naumov.
He was Major, General Major. It's correct in English? General Major.
Major General, yes.
Major General.
Yes.
General Major. It's in Russian you say General Major, but in English,
It's
Major General. Yes. He was a major starting with us, and then he got his ranks while he was organizing the partisans.
Now, your sister at that point was 8 or 9 years old. What did you plan to do with her?
My sister became a shepherd down there in the woods by this family where we were living. And when I came to this, she was down there living in this, with this family, a lot of partisans, and the people, they like it or didn't like it, they had to help us because it already were guns, and we're thinking they had to be on our side. But they were anyway on our side because it's already the true face of the Germans, of the Nazis. And we went, and I led words to my sister that I'm going to fight. But I was not sure she knows, she doesn't know. So we stopped in a village. And I was assigned to this group. There were 6 of us, smaller group, and then a bigger group of 250. Consists as what, we have names for it. I don't know in the English version how does it. When I came to this village, I came to my immediate commanding officer, and with tears in my eyes, I said, "I left my sister, and she will not know. She'll think that I'm killed. How can I let her know that I am fighting and I am with the partisans?" He said, I have a solution. We are going to stay in here for 2-3 days. I'll give you my adjutant. I'll give you my horse. Go back to her, tell her what's happening, and that's the story. I went back. It took us a long time. It was 15, 16 kilometers on a horse. It was a long way. We came to the village. I came to the woman. I ran into the house, and I said, "I'm going to fight." I didn't have my gun yet, but she saw the other guy with the gun, with the horse. She knew that I was going to fight. If something will happen to my sister, I'll pay you. I'll burn your house, and I'll kill you. She knew it. I'm in business. And I made my point straight, and was clear.
Good.
Brenda Senders, tape 3.
Okay.
Just need to get a couple more seconds of
Can I
pause.
give a drink?
Sure, sure. Do you want me to get you some more water? You okay?
You would call it an interesting story, huh?
I want to just clear up the one point of where your uncle was at this point, and then we'll continue with the story.
Speed.
Brenda, just to go back for a little bit, your uncle who was with you, where
Yes.
was he now?
He remained down there in the woods in Karasin with his son, Bebik, we call them.
Okay, so
David.
now you're going to meet the larger group of partisans and fight with them.
In
Go ahead.
fight with them. I
Go ahead.
left behind everybody, I went with fight with them. They were Russians, they were Ukrainians, they were Jewish, like I told you. A purpuri, a mixture.
Did they know that you were Jewish?
I told them, maybe some they were not advertising, not going out with placates on the front of them, but I tell them if they ask me. I was proud of myself, of my family. I knew it's
Did you use an assumed name or your own name?
my name, Branislava. They used to call me Branislava Samuilovna. You know, you call, in the Russian version, you call it by your name and your father's name.
Okay, continue with your story, please.
Branislava Bronya, yes. Yes, what?
Continue with your story. Where'd you go now?
I left, yes, in the woods. When I came back, I left my sister, and I told the woman what I told her. She got my message straight. My sister survived. That's what I wanted to tell you, emphasize, if you will forget someplace. And she survived, and then I met her in my town later on.
All right, but let's talk about your life with the partisans.
With the partisan, what their life, a day in their life. I'll give you an example. We used to occupy a village. We had a radio station with 3 people working. We had receiving and transmitting telegrams with Moscow. We used to have assignment what to do. And we were a mite, I don't know, 1,600, 1,000, I don't know. But we were a mite. The Germans were afraid of us.
How were you being supplied?
The supplies, we used to ambush the Germans, go into the bases if it's necessary, if we could. Some supplies came even by planes. It's ironic, but they used to come by planes. They used to supply us from behind the front. They used to go over the front, throw us ammunition. Sometimes they used to even land the planes, if it was safe, and take some of our very wounded partisans and take them back. If they survived going through the front, not being exploded by the Germans are watching.
What kind of training did they give you?
Very fast training. I learned very fast how to use my gun. We used to go out, we had to teach me how to horseback riding. It was natural to me, 1, 2, 3. It was, I learned. And in tough times, you learn fast. But on how to use your gun, we used to go out sometimes we had a major, I remember. He used to take us out in the woods, and he used to train us how to do it. But we knew it was no big deal. You put a bullet and you kill somebody, that's all. And, but he used to exactly into the point, wherever you want it, you know, to do the job right. So, and then to how to throw a grenade, and to use a machine gun if it's necessary. I had a gun in the beginning I was given. I remember I was given at the beginning a long one. I had to drag him. I'm a small woman, and the gun was bigger than you know. Then I was graduated, and I was given one of the fights we got from the Germans. I was given a smaller, a karabinka they call it, a smaller, and I was happy with it. And then to the end I had automatic gun, 71 bullet, manually, automatically. Whatever the situation would call for.
And did you know how to ride a horse?
Yeah, I learned very fast.
Okay. Did you also get training on using explosives?
Yeah. A grenade is nothing to it. You just pull out and just throw a grenade.
But I mean to derail a train, for example.
Yeah, we derailed, we did it. In the beginning we used to do it in one spot. But then we find out that the Germans would fix them 1, 2, 3. So we had to derail them in 2 and 3 places. And then they used to put their sentries. So we would have to, or take him off with a silencer. We used to take him off. You know, silencer, put a silencer on the gun.
How far from Carison did you travel with this band?
With this band, I call them freedom fighters.
Freedom fighters.
How far? We started from the woods of Karasin. We went in the direction of the Soviet Union that at that time was almost not far from Zhytomyr. It was the Soviet side, the Russian side. Then we had an assignment from Moscow to go back through the woods into the Carpathian Mountains.
And that was south from where you were, okay?
That was west. No, it's not south yet. South, that's right. Southwest. Yeah.
So what kind of activities did your freedom fighters and you do?
They go into the bases, knock the hell out of them. I say always, I saw the shoe on the other foot. I saw their army disintegrate. I saw them running in panic. I saw that blood was red as ours, and they were afraid of dying. And this was the reward that we had.
How long did you stay with the freedom fighters?
I'll give you an example. We stopped in a village. I'll explain to you a day in the life of a partisan. So I want you to picture yourself. We stopped in the village, and it was on the Soviet territory. And I remember we occupied a village. In the village was surrounded with hills on one side. In the other side was going to the woods. And I was in the group who was taking care in a fighting unit. And in our case, we were not the intelligence, but we call it the people who would put them in a strategic point, in the entrance of the village, in the exit of the village, or both entrances, whatever you call it, in the middle. Put them in strategic points and people who would watch. Anybody, we would let in people, but nobody is allowed to walk out from that village while we are down there. Nobody. You understand? And in the morning, while I was standing down there was this machine gun, was my officer, and I was down there in a group of people. There were 5 of them who was standing down there right by the entrance of the village. And anybody, for instance, anybody who would come into the village, we would give him a parole. We would give him a sign. And we used to have like 7, for instance. We would say 4. He would have to respond 3. It should correspond 7. And then on top of this, we would have 2 names, like Warsaw, Kiev, or Warsaw to be more complicated, more thing. If I would say Warsaw, he must respond Kiev. If he doesn't respond, he would be killed. If he doesn't stop, killed at the spot, or he had to come into the village and stay down there, and we would find out who he was. So this morning, we went into that village, and in the morning, somebody tipped off the Germans. They came on our backs. They occupied the most strategic point because the hills, we were in the village. And my officer came up running. He said, "We have a fight." And there was no time, there was seconds, minutes. You have to be on the ball right there and then. We have a fight, and we run out, and he said, "We don't have the ammunition." The ammunition we used to carry on horse and buggy. Surplus, you understand? Surplus of the bullets and all those things, extra guns, extra machine guns. And it was like 5, 6 houses away in a house. I knew where it was. I said, "I'm going to get it." I ran up to get the thing, and they were sniping already from the hills. They were cutting us down. I went through the back alleys. I ran in, and there I got what this Boy Scouts, what did they wear? This big, I remember wearing a big thing with the bullets.
Bandolier.
Not a bandolier, this one thing, but a whole satchel, a whole bag full. I put it, I remember, on me, and when I started running back, I saw the homes already was standing down there facing the hill, were already on fire. You know, the homes in the Ukraine, they are from wood and from straw are the roofs. And the Germans who were standing down there on the better positions, they start putting in fire bullets, in their fire bullets. You understand? They start the fire, 1, 2, 3, and they start fire. I had to run onto the homes with my bullets, with my bag of bullets. I had to run in. I ran into one house, I remember, and I had to tumble through to the next house. I went through alive, and then I saw a guy, and I recognized him by his jacket. Ivanya was his name. I said, Ivanya, cover me. I yelled to him, Ivanya, cover me. Ivanya didn't respond, and I yelled at him with insults. I said, he covered. I yelled at him with insults because he didn't do the job, but Ivanya was dead. A sniper got straight to his head. The funeral was the next day. I went through, I tumbled through the next house, the third house. I went through, I was punching myself if I'm alive. I remember, onto a well, you know, like a Lincoln times, a wooden, you know, when you put it in the bucket, you get the water. I tumbled on the ravine, and then under the barns were already my partisans, my comrades. I ran in and there. They put a cross over them when they saw me. And I gave him the bullets. But this was not the end. We had to leave that town, that village. We had to leave fast. Because we knew right within an hour or within a few hours, bombs with Germans will come and they will destroy the village, they will knock the hell out of everything. So we left at the Kois, we left some old horses, some old schmatter, some old rags in the woods around surrounding the village. And we were told, a bunch of us, to go. There was a clearing, an opening in the woods, there are clearings, you understand? And we told a bunch of us we should go backwards. We should go like going into the woods backwards. When the plane will come to scout out, so you should see that people went in, nobody went out. And the rest of the partisans went on both sides. That's what they deceived them, on both sides. We went out, we left the village, and we predicted right. They used to send after us the Rama, we called it, like frame. And this was a photographical aeroplane. And he used to take photographs, and he saw them there, whatever he could see.
So you fooled them with the footprints?
Fooled him, yes. We went into the woods within kilometers, maybe a few kilometers, a kilometer, half a mile. We were spectators to the tragedy. They made nothing out of the village. And they thought that they killed us off, but they didn't. So we fooled them. This is one incident. There's another incident in the Carpathian Mountains. One time I escaped with my life, and I have my explanation for it, that's all. And this I told in the museum the same. Maybe I'll repeat myself.
Go ahead, tell your story.
We were stationed again in a village. And I was in the Komendantski's ward. For some reason, they selected me. I should be in charge, like to protect the general. And this was quite honorable. I don't know. That's what I was assigned. We were stationed in that village. And in the morning, at night, we got an order that we must go with the general in the second village. We must go with him. We didn't know where. We didn't question where we are going. They gave us an order. We have to go with him. We went with our general to the next village in the morning. A hell got loose. The Germans occupied, somebody tipped them off, the partisans are down there. They were on our spurs. They occupied the village. High in the big heat, and not being a soldier, a schooled soldier, I left my bullet belt. I said, in the morning, I'm coming and I'm getting my bullet belt, and I'm getting back my bullets. You don't do it during the war. And I left it behind. While we were retreating, we used to have, we call it the intelligentsia, we call it razviedka. you know, the people who used to come in, the first one in a village to scout out, it's everything, it's not, Germans are waiting for us. And after we would retreat, they would be the last one, 2 of them or 3 of them, whatever we could spare. See to it that everybody left. Some partisan can fall asleep, can get a stomachache, can something happen to him. That everybody's out. The Germans could not get a hold of him. And while I was running to the village, my commanding officer comes across to me, and I said, where is my pontrantage? It's my bandolier, you call it a belt, bullet belt. He said, I left it under the log, and you better get it. If not, you're going to be court-martialed. The Germans was already in the village. Without thinking, I ran across the opening, the thing, and then my friend, Andrei was his name, saw me running to the village. He thought I got crazy. He ran with his pistol. He said, I'm going to kill you, you stupid. I said, my pontrantage, my bullet belt. And he let me go. Do you imagine running up on a horse? He told me he put it under the log by the house. I ran up, and I still get bubbles up till now in my stomach. I ran up to that house, the log where he told me. I had my horse as tight as I could. I ran, I found my bullet belt, I put on my head, I remember. I mounted the horse, and I was running through the woods. I was running through the clearing into the woods. When I came, I heard the screams of the people, the village was burning, the yelling of the people, and the Germans was already, they were making a mess of the people and everything. When I came into the woods, escaping from all this hell, I touched myself to see if I am right, if I am alive, or if it's something, a dream. And when I came back to the partisans, my general said, gosh, you live a long life.
You were lucky.
He was right. My only explanation for that, this is mine, I wore, how did they saw me? Positively. They saw me on a horse. My explanation, I wore a German uniform from a German pilot. I remember we got it once in the fight, and he was must be a tall Fritz, you know, so I had to cut off, you know. I remember cutting it off to suit me. And I had a poncho, you know, with those different colors the kids now wearing, you know. When you camouflage, you can camouflage, you fall on the ground, you camouflage with this, you don't, when a plane comes over you, hovering over you, he doesn't see you are a part of the ground. In a war his pilot head. My explanation for all these things, how they didn't snipe me down or they didn't kill me, because they saw me in full view. They thought that maybe I was one of them. It's the only thing I can tell you. Maybe I was lucky, I don't know. But this is my explanation for this story. This is another.
I understand. How long did you stay with the partisans?
Up till 1944, about a year and a half. But you can have to start from 42 to come to 44. They were gallant fighters. They were fighting the hell. I know it, the war came fast at my head. They were afraid of our shit. They were afraid of us. They imagine they had the guts they called the partisan bandits. They were the bandits. They occupied, they marauded, they killed our families, they murdered. I was a Polish national. My family dates hundreds of years. I don't know, maybe 800, 900, like we are now American nationals. That's how, if I would go out from the country, except my division or my difference, I was a Polish national of a Jewish faith, and all of a sudden Hitler, this monster, made us all criminals. And he wanted to destroy people. a culture, a people. No, I believe, I don't know, because we were nationals, we were Poles, we were living down there. That's the herd. In all the countries were sitting and playing with some toying around.
Well, now, what happened in 1944? That's when the Russians started to counterattack and they drove the Germans back.
Absolutely.
What
I
happened?
saw them coming into our camps.
What happened to you when the Russian army moved in?
Yeah, we were as heroes. We were heroes. We were looked up as heroes because mostly the partisans, in my case, it was no choice. I went down there to fight because they did the horrible thing. I don't know, maybe you understand, but in this situation, and so they gave us, jobs and whatever. Even I was toying with the idea to go to school. I wanted to take English and French and whatever not, and they would subsidize. They would give me some help for it. And they looked up, they said, like after the war, for generals and for partisans, you don't have to even to stand in line. We had our signs, red signs, whatever. So this was nice. And I never heard any bad words against the United States and the partisans. And I remember when we got penicillin into the woods from the United States. Some nice words were said, and a lot of partisans were spared. And a lot of partisans helped with that.
Now, did you follow the Russian army west, back to Poland?
We didn't follow it. We did our mission, our job was accomplished after the Nazis, after the front was advancing, because they knew this, the army knew that the partisans was a big help. They put them on their knees. They had to take off divisions from their front to fight the partisans, and I know it for a fact. They didn't have no day or no night, no rest for them. They find out fast.
Now,
But it's not as much as I would want them to stay.
did you go back to Sarny after the war was over?
Yes,
What did you find there?
nothing. Nobody. Scattered people there and here. A family, a member, 2 members of a family there and here.
What did you do next?
I went a little bit to work. I was toying with the idea to go to school, but in the meantime I had to work. And then we started hearing that every Polish citizen who was a Polish national before the war, the 39, has the right. They gave the Ukraine part of Poland, they gave to the Soviets, you understand? In the other part from the book, they gave to the Poles. So any Polish national who lived on the Ukrainian side of Poland had the right to live and to go on the Polish side. And that's what I decided of, ready with the intention that I'll go at that time to Palestine. I had my relatives. I never intended to come to the United States, but to Palestine. I had some relatives. I had my aunts and some uncles, were left before the war. And that was my intention.
But it wasn't so easy to go to Palestine.
It wasn't so easy.
How did you do it?
We came to Poland, and then was the Bricha, if you heard about it. It's clandestine. You read it in Exodus, and it's very much the same as it was. We stayed in Poland for a while, and then there was unfriendly, we were surrounded still with unfriendly people around us.
Now you say we.
I don't know, for some reason, or the jealousy or whatever, their thing or their guilt, they didn't do nothing during the war. They didn't help their own people, their own nationals. That's what I say sometimes. You betrayed your own people. They did.
Did you link up with your sister and your uncle?
When I came to Sarny, yes. And I linked up with my sister, and in Bytom, I stayed with them. And I wanted my sister to go, she was younger than I was, to go in an orphanage, in a kibbutz. So I put her in a kibbutz in Poland, near the Czechoslovakian border, I remember. Near the Czechoslovakian. And I used to come from Bytom, Ludwigsdorf or something, I don't remember, I think Ludwigsdorf they call it. And there was this kibbutz with all the orphanage from Warsaw, from all over Skara, whatever they didn't have parents, they were congregated on there. So my sister, I said, listen, if you'll have to go to Palestine, I'll come with you. Because, you know, I was not, she was younger than I was. And one day I came, she was not there. She was not there anymore. She went over the border, she went on the Czechoslovakian side, and then they went on the American side. That's the way we used to do at that time. In the Exodus, you
mentioned Bytom. Bytom is a town in Poland?
Yes, I think it was on the border between Poland and Germany, or it was a German town. I'm not sure. I don't, I'm talking about 39. I'm talking about that time. I think it was a German town, because Katowice was still a Polish town. But Bytom, I think it was a German town.
Okay.
And from Bytom, I left my sister. My sister and I was very sad because I didn't find her. But then I figured out what happened. We knew it already, that she went away with her group of people. And then later on, we left Poland. We went secretly, actually, clandestinely. We left Poland. We went over to Czechoslovakia as political, as something we told them, but they looked through the fingers at that. They let us through because they knew what we went through, the plight and the horrible things we went through. They let us through. They were very friendly, in a friendly terms, mostly of them.
Okay, we're going to take a temporary break, and then we'll come back and finish your story.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. We'll just take 2 minutes.
You're not sweating?
Brenda Senders, tape 4.
Can I still have a sip?
Of course.
You want.
Okay.
Okay,
So
we're going to
why
finish
don't
up your story, and then we're going to use your photographs,
Yeah.
your pictures, and it'll be a nice tape. Be a good tape.
Good tape?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're doing good.
Speed.
Please continue with your story, Brenda. You went over into Czechoslovakia. Go ahead.
We went over to Czechoslovakia clandestinely over the border. And from Czechoslovakia, we slept, something was done there, some kind of, I don't know, some kind of union or some kind of understanding, you understand, between the Brecha, then the Jewish, whatever, the Brecha, and they were working together. We went over, and from there we came to Austria. And in Austria, I wound up to be in a kibbutz. In Branau, I'm in. This is the ironic thing, in the place where Hitler was born. And then there was a kibbutz, and there I met Leon, my husband.
And you were married in Austria?
In Austria, in Branau, I'm in.
Mm-hmm. And where did you go next?
And next, we went to Italy. He found his sister. You just find out the day we got married, he had some news that his sister survived in a concentration camp from Bergen-Belsen, and she's in Italy. So we came and we met up with his sister.
Now,
but he was working with the Haganah at that time.
Did your sister make it through to Palestine?
My sister, yes, wound up on the Exodus boat.
The famous Exodus boat.
The famous, what Leon Uris wrote his book. I have pictures, even from what my sister gave me. And she went on the Exodus. They came to Palestine at that time, to the outskirts of Haifa. And they saw the people who were waving to them. And they waved to the people, but the English didn't let him to get off. They brought him back to Cyprus. They brought him to Marseille, to France. And then there, the people of the boat Exodus didn't want to embark. They said, we are going to die with the boat. And frogs came down under the boat, and they were ready to make an end to it. In the English at that time, were very afraid of public opinion and all those stories. And they made a deal with the Bricha. We will let off the boat of the people, will take him to Hamburg. And they took him to Hamburg, and through the Vidi Bricha, they made a deal. They brought him to Hamburg, they embarked the people, and then later on they went to Palestine at that time. But then I find out, while being in Italy, that's my sister, I never had no connection, I didn't know where and what. At that time I didn't know, Exodus, not Exodus. I know she was on a boat, it's called Exodus, and she's someplace near Hamburg, and it was a tough thing to do. So I decided that I have to bring my sister to be with me. I went to the Polish consular, I made a passport, and he said this was unique, the only one he ever made. I said, make it. I insisted, and he did it. With my sister on the passport. Going down there, they stamped out, they did not pay attention. Coming back, I told them that she went with a bunch of kids. You know, that's my story. I got my passport, I went off in Germany, I took assumed name, they gave me, I went to a special group, they were the Betar, they were the right wing at that time. And I went, and they already told them that I'm coming, that's my husband, tell him, that I'm coming down there. And they had a name for me, I assumed name, they gave me, the profile looked like me, and I had to memorize her name and her year of birth. And from that point on, I had to go from Munich, and I had a disaster coming back to Munich, and this is another story. I was arrested by the MP, and I almost was brought to the Czechoslovakian border. I begged myself out. And when I came back to Munich, I got this passport, this assumed passport. I went through 3 zones. I went the American zone, the English, and the French. Remember, Germany was split. I had to go through those zones, come to Hamburg, and from down there, they were in someplace away. It was not near Hamburg. It was about 15, 20 kilometers from Hamburg. I have to go to the UNRWA, I remember, or to the giant distribution committee. And from them, I find out where I told them that I also belong, because they wouldn't let me in. I told them that I belong also on the kibbutz down there with the boat people, with the Exodus people. And it was tricky, but I did it. I went into the camp, and my sister in the beginning, she said, yeah, she's coming with me. All of a sudden, her supervisor, her madrich, who was, I had, you know, her Armenian, how do you say it?
Her counselor.
A counselor, yes, exactly. Her counselor started talking to her, what are you going, this, start propagating her. And she came out, she said, she's not coming with me. Here, all the efforts I made. I almost fainted, I remember. And to the end, she decided to come with me.
Good. Now, your uncle, did he also go to Palestine?
My uncle, yes. He went to Palestine. With his son, Dov, he recently passed away. Okay. Now, about 2 years ago.
You and your husband then are now in Italy.
Yes.
And how did you come to this country?
In Italy, remember, there was the Truman's, the 100,000 refugees he led in. We came on this quota. I had relatives in Washington. I had my mother's sister, Fanny, what's her name, Fanny Gorin. And I find her through my uncle, gave me all the information, through a student and through the police department. I find out where she was. And she sent us an affidavit, and that's how we wind up to be in Washington.
And what year was that?
In 1951. In the end, you can call it 1952.
Did you?
Christmas, I remember we were celebrating on the ship, and USC, we were already in the States.
Did you and your husband then continue to live in Washington?
Yes.
And what business were you and your husband in?
It was office machines. Yes.
And when did you move to Florida?
To Florida, we moved 6 years ago.
You're retired now.
Yes.
Well, that's a remarkable story, Brenda, and I want to thank you for sharing it with us. Now we'd like to see some of your pictures.
I hope I said it.
You did very well.
Thank you for listening to me.
Speed.
Yes, this picture was taken in Poland. I would say approximately 1924. My mother, this is my mother, my father, that's me. I was once a little girl. That was my aunt, Rosa, my uncle, Laser Osher, we call him. This is my grandmother, who perished during the Holocaust. This is my great-grandmother. This is my aunt, Chaya. And this is my uncle, Reuven, and I call him my favorite uncle. And this is when a German threw a piece of bread to him. He didn't pick it up. This is my grandfather, his mother, my great-grandmother. This is my Aunt Devorah. She left Poland to Palestine. She, from all the people who remained alive, it's my uncle, me, and my Aunt Devorah, who left for Palestine.
Speed.
Yes, okay, this is my mother. And the picture was taken in Poland. What year, I don't know. My mother was young at that time, looks like 1920, I would say it. That's
Speed.
okay, and that's me right before I gave my gun as a partisan. And this is 1944.
Speed.
Yes, this is a picture was taken in Poland. That was hard before the war. I don't, this is I find through my relatives in Israel when I went for a visit. They had it. This is approximately 39, I would say, 39, I would call it.
This picture is of you?
Of me, yes. This is the picture of me in my school.
Speed.
This is the picture I was taking, I would say, in Poland. And this is my grandmother, Sarah, my mother, Leah, and this is my Aunt Devorah, who went to Palestine. And she passed away recently.
Speed.
Okay, this is the passport. It was made in Milano. Was given by the counselor in Milano, the Polish counselor, to me. And I insisted that my sister remained alive and I must bring her from Germany to Italy back. And this is the first of a kind, he said. He made it, but he did. I insisted and I succeeded for him to do it. And this is my sister and myself, and that's how I brought her back from Germany into Italy. I could bring her in. Yeah, this is the picture I was taking right here in Florida. Our daughter, this is my husband. This is me. This is our son-in-law, Phil. This is our daughter, Rita. And this is our son, Stanley. This, I think, 3 years ago.
Speed.
Yes, to the extreme left is our son-in-law, Mark. Next to him sitting is Liam, my husband. Our granddaughter, Rochelle. There is me, Brenda. And the second line is Justin, our son's little boy. This is our daughter, Sherry. and her little girl, Laura. And this is Rita in our son-in-law Phil. Stanley is not in it, but he's on the other picture.